Good morning, everybody. This is the Dawn Patrol from 6 to 7, and we have City Life from 7 to 8, so we're with you for approximately 2 hours, depending upon where you are. And if this is being repeated in Chelmsford for the 2 hours, I'm Evelyn Thoren, your host for this morning. We have Sam Chase and Bob Hoey as co-hosts. John McDonough is behind the camera, sometimes on the camera. I asked my husband Glenn to be on this morning. Donna Newcomb had some student issues this morning that she was not able to make it.
That's too bad.
So she's a teacher in the Lowell public school system, so there's different things, high school level. She wanted to be on to be able to discuss all of the different programs and events that she works with her students on, and all the different trips and stuff that they go on, and maybe give us a perspective of the MCAS question passing and what does that mean. And we can talk about all of that stuff in the first hour. We can bring up some stuff. I know that Glenn really has some things he really wants to say, so I'm hoping that he makes sure he gets up early. I didn't wake him up, but sometimes by the time I leave, I can hear him, upstairs getting ready. But we'll see if he gets here. I would assume he will, and we'll see how things are with regard to that. There was different things I thought besides the election, since everybody's talking about the election, we're going to get to that. One of them had to do with this Peanut the squirrel, and the government coming in and actually taking the squirrel and then killing it later along with its raccoon friend.
No, I missed all of that.
Well, there was a story I did. I mean, I passed it.
Is that something you sent?
Yeah,
well,
and that's why.
I've been so busy, I haven't been able to.
That was last week.
Okay, I missed it. Missed it.
I don't recall this.
Massachusetts?
I don't think it. No. So there is a parallel because there was some discussion on Facebook with Newhouse, and that's
the beaver. Yes.
Because of
my neighbor. Full
Libby.
Disclosure, she lives 3 houses down from me.
Yeah, and she's doing a terrific job. I mean, we need people like that, that love all nature. Some of us, I could take a leave, squirrels and chipmunks, because of my personal experience with them has not been favorable. Just like mice and rats, it's one of those kind of things.
I'm just going to throw a quick name out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nancy Camacho. That's the person that loves animals more than anybody I ever met in my life, and we're not related. But Nancy Camacho. Thanks. Just for
is that
what
local?
you said.
Is that local?
No, she lives I believe in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach area, but she's from Lowell. But on Facebook, there's nobody that loves all animals, from down to turtles to dogs, you name it. She shows, Go ahead, Sam.
If it breathes and moves, she loves it.
Oh yeah, she's the best, without a doubt. So thank you.
I was fine up until when we had squirrels in the house that tried to chew their way out.
Boy, can they be destructive.
And the chipmunks that made burrows underneath the floor in my garage. Let me see. There's a whole list of different things, and the mice are awful, and we've been able to figure that out. But as far as the squirrel thing goes, it was kind of ridiculous. I think that the man lived on a 300-plus acre farm and found an orphaned squirrel. I read an article this morning that made a comment about baby squirrels, and it said that if they get separated from their mother, or if they're injured in some capacity and they see humans, they garner everything that they can, and then they try to cling to them because they're looking for help.
Cling to the humans?
Yeah, like cats do on your leg, So it's not that they're a problem in terms of your health.
They're just trying to survive, like every other living thing.
Right. And this is one of the things that squirrels do. Yeah. The other point that I would like to make in all of this, that it is highly unlikely that a squirrel has rabies. We had one Christmas, I don't know how many years ago it was. We always celebrated our Christmas the day after. This is my father was still living, and a squirrel got in the house somehow. You would have thought this was National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, if anybody has seen the squirrel in the tree. But this was not a squirrel in the tree. It came in from outside somehow. Anyway, it bit one of my sons. He went to ER, and they said, well, it's highly unlikely you have rabies because it was a squirrel.
So they didn't give him the treatment?
No.
I didn't think we'd be talking about this subject, but I was a 40...
No, I didn't either.
It's early.
I was a 40-year roofer, okay? So when you're up on somebody's roof, there's always a chimney up there.
Oh, you had your share of squirrels.
I dealt with squirrels.
Yep.
I'll tell you, raccoons is probably the scariest thing you can deal with. They like to be inside your chimney. Squirrels, if they're in your attic, you got to be careful. You got to get a person like me that knows how to be up there with a hammer and conk the squirrel over the head and get them out. But they got teeth and they can hurt you.
Oh boy,
So
you're gonna get blowback for that remark.
no, that's okay. But well, when you got to get them out of the house, you got to get them out of the house.
I agree with you 100%.
But field mice, let me tell you, that's a big issue for me because I live between Lowell Cemetery and railroad tracks. I see everything from coyotes to deer, you name it, I see it. And it's
You
just
should
because...
film it.
No, it's just... like I said, I leave all that to Nancy Camacho, to be honest with you.
She's the animal person.
I have 2 cats. There's your issue. Have 2 cats, and they'll leave mice all around for you to see, and then they want you to pat them for what they did right for you.
That's the reward.
That's what keeps them out of my house, because Lowell Cemetery is so beautiful, right? You know, if you've been by it, it's just incredible. And then railroad tracks is a way for animals to come into Lowell. So you think a person in Lowell don't see animals like Chensford? You're wrong.
Well, we've
Lowell
taken
gets a
over
lot
their
of things,
territory, too.
Oh, yeah.
It's I live in the center of town, which is, you know, pretty dense population. We have the smaller lots and so forth. And I've got a strip mall right in my backyard, and occasionally we have deer in my backyard, and I don't have really woods.
But do you have water?
No, actually, we don't. I mean,
Isn't there wetlands?
Well, yeah,
Close?
but well, actually, on Brook Street there is a brook, hence the name. But that's, you know, like.
And they'll veer from there.
That's like a block away from us. But occasionally we'll see deer in my backyard, right in the center of Chelmsford. You know, so you say, yeah, the wildlife is.
Well,
is
where my house is.
Oh, you'd get them, sure.
Where my house is, there is, I think it's called Beaver Brook, is behind it. It eventually ends up in the Merrimack River. It goes through the center of town. And for years, we would have issues with the coyotes. They'd be out there howling and all kinds of stuff. And Glenn had what he called a green laser. I don't know what all of the different things, but anyway, he'd shine it out there when they were howling and stuff, and they'd leave. And so I haven't seen coyotes in a long time. My daughter-in-law across the street does, and fox. Way before my middle son got married, I don't know where we were, up in Maine someplace, I was talking to him, and he says, I'm going to hang up. There's a moose running down the middle of the street. Now, that was before...
On Pinewood?
Yeah, that was before cell phones. So in South Chelmsford, where I'm situated, we have Beaver Brook. It runs under Garrison Road, and it comes through Westford. And there's a lot of wetlands that are on the other side of Garrison Road, and fields and things in there that are under those high tension wires that people can see from 110 when they go to Westford from Chelmsford Center. So there's a lot of animals out there. I haven't seen anything unique in a long time, but I'm not always looking either, because I'm always busy doing something, which this week has been a very challenging week on being busy and then being busy.
You know, I missed you and Sam quite a bit when I'm not here, you know, on the show, because...
Well, we had Jay last week, and I was like...
You know,
yeah, it's too bad, because that's the time when we want, especially we want you with
yeah, because you have a different perspective.
Well, today I was hoping the woman was going to be here that works at the high school, because I have a grandson there, and, you know, question 2 there. The question 2 for the past few years, remember when question 2 was, I forget what it was when Cam Kay was running for school committee, someone that we used to have on the show a lot. It was about giving people a voucher, you know, if they didn't come to a public school. And I said, oh, Cam, you got to get rid of that. The union will kill you on this, I'm telling you. You can't win. He says, oh, no, people want this, because he's a Republican.
Yeah, but not enough of them.
Yeah, I said, oh, they're gonna, right now though, that issue,
It's gonna
be a
come to the
close
court.
call.
Yeah.
You know, but that issue killed my friend, and this issue here might have killed me because I'm against MCAS. I voted yes, no, just so you know.
Well, you're in the majority.
And I want to just crank her up about elections, because she brought up squirrels, not me, Sam.
Okay.
I had the high score on my head in the election. I think you should be complimented, but I'm going to compliment the producer right now, because I'll tell you what, I watch Views, okay? Now they're called, I don't know, plays or something like that. And since I've missed some of your shows, you guys have held strong up in the 600s, almost 700s, but very hard to beat Linda Bond because the producer used to think Feder. But I seen Tuesday's show go back up. We're almost at 800. Why? Because our friend, Ned Tommy was on the show with his nephew Jeff, and we had Lee Gitchen.
Yeah, I saw
so
that.
it always helps. Like Jay Lang, if I was here with Jay Lang and you two together, I guarantee you would be the show to beat. That's what I worry about.
And then I share it, and then other people pick up on that.
Yeah, so my point, the way I was thinking this morning, what are you going to talk about? You haven't been around him. Well, the producer deserves a pat on the back, just like we pat the guy that runs the bridge, Bobby Cox, because really, listen, he saves lives. This producer doesn't know it. He saves lives also. And how he does it is having a couple of people from India that were on, couldn't even say their name, Sam, I was embarrassed, so I made them introduce themselves.
No, that's
It was
fine.
from Lhasa.
Well, there's a way around
I
it.
think I'm pronouncing it right. Lhasa, love all, save all, I'm pretty sure. And they had a free clinic. Well, I keep trying to tell my brothers, and I have 6 of them, listen, colonoscopies don't hurt. Dad died of colon cancer. If you can hear me out there, get checked.
Right.
That's why I'm 70 and I beat my father. He was 63 when he passed. I'm 70 because my wife has talked me into going to the doctor. So, John, you deserve a pat in the back, because even women with breast cancer, and men get breast cancer, I didn't realize that.
Yes, they do.
But if you wasn't checked, if you don't get examined, it's not good. It's not good.
Well, we can go down
Yeah,
that path,
you're
but what I wanted
welcome.
to do was just finish, because there's a couple of things I wanted to pick up
I
on.
want to back up 1 second. Cliff Krieger gets 900 views on Friday.
Yeah.
Does he? That's a lot.
Good, you get some great numbers.
Good.
Yeah, I know he does. But
I'm not in competition.
I don't have a clue.
No.
I think
me
it's a
either.
big deal that I get up and I'm actually here.
Well, I take it as encouragement.
It's a good day, right?
Well, most of the people in our line of volunteerism, they wonder, well, how many people are actually watching this show? Well,
Now we have an idea.
Oh, you have an idea, right?
it's encouragement. I take it as encouragement. Yeah.
Well, besides all the views that come off the show that you have, there's also the show that's in Chelmsford that's not measured, and that's on the Sunday and the Tuesday. So this is there, and there is a following. I don't know in terms of all the views that we've had politically, if people have chosen not to listen, but that's at their discretion. It's it's who we are, and that's where we're going with it. But when I was talking about mice. One of the articles this morning on a different phone had to do with, if you have mice besides cats, how do you get rid of them? Or how do you keep them from coming in the house? There's a lot of different suggestions because it's that time of year.
Yeah, so when they
And
come in.
if you seal up, caulk, fill in with foam, any kind of cracks or crevices to the outside, like for instance your water faucets, from outside. If you have wires that come in, and you should have the electrical, it's like a red thing in a caulking tube, in a tube. You should have that around any kind of wires that are going between floors, because that is a way in which if you had fire on one floor, it can go up if you don't have breaks in the wall. However, as far as the mice go, there's a whole list of things that you can use. Cinnamon is one. You can spray vinegar, but that dissipates faster.
They don't like cinnamon?
No, I have it in my garage, and I haven't seen that many mice.
Interesting.
Cloves, things that have a very strong scent, they don't like. If you're trying to catch them with certain types of traps, they're smart enough to know to avoid them to a certain extent. And when we were talking about squirrels, we did catch we had sticky traps. We did catch a chipmunk. There's no coming back from that. So that was fortunate.
Ever?
Yeah.
Congratulations, Mr. Hoey. You predicted Trump's landslide victory.
No, I just said he was going to win the popular vote, and I think he's still in the running for that one, too. So
I don't think there's much
I don't think there's
question
any.
about that.
Even though I checked, I mean, we're going to talk a lot more about politics when Glenn gets here, or in the second hour. But I did send a couple of pictures, which is quite revealing this year. One, and I texted them out, and they're a picture of California and New York. But with California, it almost appears as though they still haven't finished counting. And so we'll show those. And
Well, according to Bill O'Reilly, he says they don't want to count the votes in California. I'm not sure what that means, but that's his comment.
I
wish
wish
it was
I'd
gonna
stay,
add-
I
it's only
wish
gonna
I would
add to
stay on
Trump.
the mice just for another
Okay,
minute.
well, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Just for another minute, because I didn't expect you to be talking about mice, believe me, when I walked in the door, but
That's
You never
okay.
know what we're going to talk
I'm very
about.
lucky to be living where I live, and I'll bring it up again, Lowell Cemetery in a ball field, then railroad tracks. That's how I live between those two things, and I love bird feeders. But you can't have bird feeders, and I'm telling this to my neighbors, when you have two cats that's trying to keep all those mice from the railroad cars from coming in your house, because it kills all the birds. So I can't have bird feeders. And I used to see all kinds of birds because where I live. Cardinals quite a bit. Blue jays, you don't see a lot of blue jays anymore.
I had a flock of them in my front
Did
yard
you
the other
really?
day.
I see a lot of them in my yard too, so.
But I have a lot of woods. I don't have a lot of activity behind me.
Do you have a lot of crows? 'Cause I
Yes,
do.
Oh,
and,
they're
and
beautiful.
crackles.
Crows,
they call
crows
them.
and grackles both
Yeah.
in my house. Yeah.
We have the robins. Robins are staying a lot longer because the weather's warmer.
Yep.
This morning coming in, I think it was 56 degrees. That's warm. I didn't need a jacket. Some people are like, what? If you live in the South, 56 is cold. But, that's just the way the weather is, and it was like that when we were growing up. We used to call it Indian summer. I don't know if
Yes.
you guys remember
That
that.
probably isn't politically correct today. but
Okay,
you-
now Trump won.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
now Trump won.
Okay, so we can
We can
call
stay-
it, we
we
can
can
call
say
it
that
Indian,
stuff,
we can
yeah.
call it
Yeah.
Indian
I
summer.
heard Cindy Fitzgibbons this morning on Channel 5 say Christmas. She's putting up Christmas lights.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Well,
Now they're,
people get,
geez, he's not even sworn in yet. They're going back to Christmas.
That's
instead
what
of
my wife,
holiday
my wife wanted
trimmings.
to do that. She said, I should get out there. She said, with this break in the weather, she said,
Yeah.
I really need to get out there with the
See
lights.
Cindy Fitzgibbons in
Yep.
a tank top and shorts.
I
I'll take
heard-
a
I
ride
saw
by
that.
her house.
I heard that, yep. Well, she's a nice, I met her one time. She's a very nice lady. And I think she's a good weather person too.
I would like to also give a pat on the back to Italian name on weekends. She's
Oh.
on Channel 5.
Kellyanne Schickalise.
Oh my God, she's gorgeous.
Oh, they're all very.
All right, guys,
Oh, no,
let's keep the
Kellyanne-
subject
They're
matter
all
here.
very, very attractive.
That's why I
okay.
watch Channel 5 on weekends. She's beautiful.
Yeah,
but that person that wrote that in about me being a big pro-Trumper, I'd have to give a lot of credit to the woman that's right to my left here with this red blouse on this morning, because there has been nobody more pro-Trumper than her, and Republican, just to take over the country. And I think they don't talk about people like myself, unenrolled, independent, whatever you
I'm
want to call it.
unenrolled, so
No,
if-
that's
we're
what
all
I
sitting
think
here.
made this election. You can say black and
Oh, I have
Spanish and
another-
all those things.
We have all
I
kinds
thi-
of approaches and theories, Bob.
Oh, but
it's-
unenrolled people.
One at a time, kids.
Yeah, I know.
Isn't it true, Sam, that unenrolled outnumber Democrats and Republicans, correct?
Well, it's true nationally, but it's even more so in Massachusetts and in Chelmsford, and I'll talk about Chelmsford, which I think is representative of the whole state. It's overwhelming. I mean, if you add the Republican and Democratic registrations together in the town of Chelmsford, the unenrolleds outnumber the Democrats and Republicans together by 4-1.
And that's
It
what
is
I-
massively true.
And that's
okay?
my opinion.
It's
Only
massive-
my
It's
opinion.
massively true.
That's what made this
But
election.
I have to, and I'll just say something very quickly, and then I'll not talk about that anymore, because we'll wait for
Yeah.
Dr. Glenn Thoren to come in at 7. But as people who watch this show, whatever the numbers are, and you folks tell me it's good numbers, I predicted that Harris would win. You know that, right? And so I was obviously wrong. And I based my prediction on my analysis of the 2016 and the 2020 election, where it was clear to me that Trump had a lot of support, or has a lot of support in the country. But the Trump voters, especially in 2016, were less inclined, I mean, they're very vocal, okay, but they were less inclined to actually cast a ballot, okay, than those on the other side. Well, that didn't happen this time. They came out and actually voted, okay, and a lot of them early voted, which I think made a huge difference. I thought that she would win, not by a lot, okay, but I thought she would win, and I completely missed that boat. So
Speaking to your point, Sam, I like this picture a lot.
Yep, go ahead.
This is World War II era, and this is a Indian chief visiting his son. His son is the tank driver.
Yep, staff sergeant, tank commander. Yep, that's what they were.
And this is a beautiful photo, but I use it to represent the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, and the unenrolled.
Okay.
Now, the Republicans think they're fantastic. That's the Indian chief. They think, look at, we are wonderful, we are mighty, but they're on a horse. The Democrats, they got a marvelous machine called a tank. And they all ignore the grass that surrounds them.
No,
the grass that surrounds them are the unenrolled, and they ignore us.
Interesting
That's very
comparisons there, but there's a number of things that has occurred, which again we can talk about in the second hour, but we can certainly bring it up here. And
You can talk about it now. Nobody watches 2 hours. Do you watch this show every day?
no,
No.
Oh, do you watch 1 hour a day?
no.
Okay,
Yes.
you watch 10 minutes. Bobby watches every day.
I watch quite a bit.
Cliff watches every day.
I don't even watch my own show.
Nobody's going to watch this for 2 hours.
I used to watch stuff. The older I got, it was like,
Don't
why?
worry about
I don't
repeating
I don't really watch that much.
Oh, I'm not. I mean, we have done the repeat before, but what's interesting in terms of your analogy and what reality is currently, from the last presidential election to today, the Republicans learned.
Yes.
And they learned better than the Democrats in terms of what they were doing. And so they had a lot of poll watchers, they had lawyers, they had everything lined up to make sure that the integrity of voting and the ballot was maintained. And when you take a look at to me anyway, there were a lot less issues with this election than the last one. And part of the issues with the last one did initiate the January 6th issue that we had in this country. And I will tell you, it is from definition, when I went to school, it was not an insurrection. It was a demonstration that did not go well.
It was a riot.
Well,
and
to a certain extent.
a riot is not an insurrection, okay?
All right, so anyway, we're all entitled to our opinion. That is mine. And again, I tell everybody, this is, we have our opinions, maybe somebody else's. It's not reflective of any of the TV, and it is unscripted.
Good point. Thanksgiving gets no respect. We start celebrating Christmas way too early. The stores do.
Are the stuff, yeah, I was going to ask you, is the Christmas stuff in the stores?
Oh, it's been there for a while.
See, I don't shop, so I don't
Been
know.
to a store.
One of the things with when they make that comment, okay, had a craft business for decades. You have Christmas all the time in all of the craft shops, because when you do craft fairs, or we had a store, you have a Christmas section, so you have to be able to find
true.
Christmas stuff. But as far as the stores go, it's a big seller because people have to ship stuff out. They don't. Everybody doesn't all family like mine. We don't all live all within driving distance. Within an hour of each other, and so people are shipping things and doing different things and trying to ship overseas. So the stores are taking advantage of that. Now I'm kind to the economic aspect of this, and but I don't really like to see Christmas in August. But we used to, in the shop, have Christmas in July. We would have a big event. So there's all kinds of things you can say about that. But as far as the voting stuff goes, I think you were going to say something.
No, I'm just thinking about throwing a plug out there for someone because you don't think people talk about Thanksgiving. It's my favorite time of the year. Two places that I love is Good Times for their turkey dinner, or Lakasha's out in Tewksbury. It's unbelievable how good it tastes. And that's, instead of cooking it at home, those are the two places.
It's surprising how many people, and I really wasn't plugged into this until, maybe about 20 years ago. I just had no idea, but it's surprising how many people go out for Thanksgiving.
It's already started for me. That's what I'm saying, Sam. I eat turkey all the time.
I don't.
Well,
I'm not a turkey person.
I love it.
I was a turkey person when I couldn't afford meat, but since I don't buy much meat now anyway, but I buy an awful lot of chicken and fish. And we could talk about diet, and that could also segue.
I'd rather eat one than be one, right?
That also could segue into, since Trump won, one of the things that he said he would do would be to put Robert Kennedy in charge of public health. So we'll see how that agenda works with regard to that.
Do you think he'll give him a cabinet-level position?
I don't know.
I do, yeah.
I don't know. I think everything remains to be seen. Everything is on the table.
Well, if he's got the Senate, then he's going to get his. He's going to get
whoever he wants.
He's going to get his cabinet because
right.
they have to confirm.
And we still have outstanding House of Representatives races and stuff out there, so we'll see how that goes.
I think it showed Trump had a heart, though. Excuse me about Kennedy. I've been a true Kennedy fan my whole life. The name Kennedy, how's that?
Yeah, I haven't.
No, I think it's gone now. Believe me, it's gone. I don't think a Kennedy will ever win again. But the way his family treated him, I think it shows a lot about Trump, to be honest with you. I think it shows he has a heart.
Trump was more inclusive. I mean, and like I said, there's a lot to analyze, and you can't do it. I mean, there's so many facets to this. It's very difficult to do it, in an hour, and certainly not in the 2 hours. But we're not gloating over, or I said to Glenn, we're not gloating over winning, because now the work really begins.
Well, that's the point right there. Now you got to produce, okay?
Well, one of the things that Trump said in his speech from West Palm was promises made, promises kept. And we're going to see that. But people who are highly critical of him and everything that he stands for should realize it does take some time. This is not an overnight fix. The American mind is, I got to do it today, and if I do it next week, it's too late.
But Evelyn, the ruling elite does not want anything fixed. You have to remember that.
How about the richest guy in the world? Elon Musk wants to...
They're going to push back.
Stop taking taxes out of me. I like that idea.
Well, there's a whole lot of pieces that go along with that, and we can certainly do the analysis on the financial aspect of things.
Instead of bouncing down the road, why don't you talk about it now?
Well, let me.
Well, we are talking about it.
We can.
Sure,
just
we
talk
can.
about it now.
We are talking about it.
Let me follow up on something Bob just said. Okay, so there's just a lot of bad information, and again, we've talked about this many times. People, it's confirmation bias. They only listen to those people that confirm their opinions. We've had those discussions. Okay, so that's why a lot of folks don't have the facts. It was funny because yesterday my cell phone lit up. All the people, all my friends that were just very upset about the way the election came out, and I actually spent a good part of yesterday talking people off ledges, okay? And it is astounding to me how very, very intelligent, highly educated professional people that have real good brains, they have just, they've disconnected from reality, okay? And some of the things that they say. I had a conversation with one of my friends yesterday who is again, highly educated, extremely intelligent. Her IQ is probably double mine, okay? And she was telling me that Trump's going to try to overturn the conversation so that he can have a third term. And then
Constitution.
and then she compared the whole thing to Hitler's rise in Germany, And I thought to myself, this is just crazy talk, And I said, look, first of all, I said that would require a constitutional amendment.
That takes
time. I said, and here's the hurdle. I said you need 2/3 of Congress. That's the starting point. Then you need 3/4 of the states to ratify.
But you've made a good point.
It couldn't, it is so unlikely. First of all, he's not going to do that. That's number one. But I mean, even if anybody wanted to do that, it's just so unlikely, and people are, and it just wouldn't happen, okay? So, but people are hysterical, okay? And I blame the media. I blame the media for that, okay?
But don't you think that if you're only listening to liberal media and you're not doing any research to see whether or not what they're telling you, including Harris, of what they're telling you is true or not true, that's why they're all so highly emotional, is because they keep telling us that we've drank the Kool-Aid. They're the ones drinking the Kool-Aid by the gallon.
I get it.
Which is unfortunate. And so as you take a look at all of the accusations, and we talked about this last week briefly, about all the different lies in her campaign, all the hoaxes that have been debunked. So, you bring them all forward and see what sticks against the wall.
Time is wonderful. So back in 2006, I saw the Al Gore movie on climate. What was the name of that movie? Do you remember?
I don't.
Okay, but you know what
You mean Day After Tomorrow?
Whatever it was.
That was Al Gore's movie?
Al Gore was on the climate change thing back then, okay? And I watched his movie, which I cannot remember the name of.
So it wasn't Day After Tomorrow?
And it could have been, Evelyn, I just don't know the name.
But that's not his movie.
Okay, don't remember, okay? You know me, I read a book and I can tell you all about the books.
That's one of my favorite
But
movies.
I can't tell you who wrote it or the name of the book. I mean, that's just the way my brain works. I can't help it. Okay,
Well, it's almost like music.
So the movie's name escapes me. But
Inconvenient truth.
Al Gore said that by now, by 2024, the polar ice caps would be gone. Now, have you looked at, are they gone, or do we still have them?
That issue, Sam, is tough.
The point I'm getting at is all of the folks that make thank you, that's it. That's an inconvenient truth, that's one. So, you have to take this stuff with a grain of salt, because you wait, history is going to bear out whether or not the prediction is true. And I look at folks, again, one of my liberal friends yesterday said, there's no problem with the border. And I said, well, you're aware of the numbers. More people came in under Trump than came in under Biden. And I'm saying, that is just factually incorrect. And it is so easy to verify those numbers. How can you, a person with 3 college degrees, look me in the face and tell me that more people came in illegally under Trump than came in under Biden? And yet, apparently, whatever his news source is, that's what they're telling them, okay? And you say, you've
Sam,
got...
when you're ready, read this one.
All right. Let's see. Here's the comment from the viewer. And thank you. This is much clearer than what you've done in the past. You should never fall in love or hate the president. I think that's good advice. You've never met the person, and they're not coming over for dinner anytime soon.
Hey, you never know with Trump.
Well, yeah, he could burst in. No, I think that's very good advice. Good advice. Good advice. But, the point is, the hysteria is ridiculous. And then you also have 4 years of when Trump was in office the first time. Now, there are a number of people that he could have gone after. Did he do it? No. He didn't go after and prosecute people, but there were a number of people he could. So I think these claims that are being made that he's going to turn into some sort of a Hitler, it's just ridiculous.
He does have a track record.
And it's not going to happen. So folks, calm down, all right, and just wait and see what happens.
John?
Okay? Yes.
Yesterday, I had a 5-hour journey in the car.
That's too bad.
No, I love, if you say, look can I have a ride to Louisiana? I say, yeah, hop in, let's go.
Oh, you like to drive, okay.
I love to drive.
There you go.
So I'm up, and the only radio station I can get, I like talk radio because I get NPR, which I usually do not listen to.
Yep.
And honest to God, all of a sudden the earth was flat. And they were all falling off the edge.
Oh, yeah, absolutely
Oh,
right.
the crybaby that they did on National Public Radio yesterday was like amazing.
Well, that is true across some of the articles, but one of the things that I listened to yesterday morning was CNN to see what they were saying. And you do have, and we've listened to CNN right along, because being on this show, I want people to know that I'm trying to get all sides of whatever the discussion or the argument will be.
Yeah, I watched
And also to try to understand why so many people that I know on Facebook sound like they're going to have a nervous breakdown. We'll address that in a second. You have addressed your part, I'll address mine. But listening to CNN, you do have people on there that are saying, we gotta, you have to recognize what actually occurred
Right.
in this election. Now, I did not hear this kind of analysis when Trump won the last time. It was very, very different.
Well, he didn't win the popular vote. That's why.
Well, when he was in
Right.
2016, I'm just saying.
Right.
You play the game by the rules, and the rules have changed, obviously,
But I
because of
think
COVID.
I think the difference here, Evelyn, it's again, he's going to win the popular vote. See, in 2016, she beat him by 3 million votes. And that was the whole thing. Well, he didn't really win. I mean, we got to get rid of the Electoral College, okay? Well, that's not going to happen this time.
No, because he
All right?
got so many votes.
So that is a completely different dynamic, and I think that was, to your point, I watched some CNN yesterday, I watched some MSNBC, and quite frankly, my opinion, comparing MSNBC and CNN is conservative, okay? I mean, MSNBC is way out there on the left, all right? But some of those people, they looked shell-shocked, but I think they were so shocked that you did get some honesty out of some of the comments, and I heard on both those networks people saying, well, you know what? Apparently this is what people want. I mean, that's what they were saying, and
Right,
I was shocked to hear that, because previously all you got from those folks was lectures about how stupid everybody was.
Well, they also talked about that. They did some better analysis than they've done
Yes,
before.
I agree with you.
All right,
I
and
agree
they
with
did
you.
say that, when you accuse, half the country and you call them names, what do you expect them to do?
People aren't going to vote for you.
And then they talked, there was, one of the last things that I had seen was they put up the map because whoever was the host asked the person that was on the other side of the map, well, how did she compare to Biden and where did she outperform him? And when they showed the picture of the United States,
It's unbelievable.
it was dark because she underperformed Biden everywhere. Pretty much.
I thought that was a very interesting statistic, and I listened to Bill O'Reilly this morning, who, the no spin zone, and if you want facts, I mean, I know a lot of people don't like O'Reilly because he's very opinionated, but he also deals in data and facts, and that's why I listened to him. And he said something that I found astounding. He said, in this country, with this past election, he says 1,900 counties vote. Okay, so he's got it broken down to that level. He says 1,900 counties vote. He said, and in 92% of the total counties that vote, Trump improved his performance. Now, he didn't obviously win all those counties, but the point was that he picked up support in 92% of the geographic area of the country, and I thought that was
Well, they did some
that was
analysis.
astounding. I was very surprised to hear that.
Well, the red wave,
You know.
the red wave that was supposed to come, it's like men. My grandmother
Yeah.
always said, imagine my grandmother saying this to me. That's who I lived with. She goes, men mature slowly. And I asked my wife, am I mature yet? She goes, no. And I'm 70.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
it's the same thing with the red wave. It took time.
You're just large boys. I don't want to get involved in that
that's
type
fine.
of a conversation,
Yeah,
please.
that's okay.
Because
But-
I have a very interesting approach and opinion to all of that stuff. So we'll leave that
I was
for another
trying to
day.
get it again, and I that's okay.
Evelyn raised 4 children. We'll just leave it at that.
And I still have one. So
There's
it's
nothing like a grandmother, though. I'm telling you, that's the #1 person in the world to me.
That's beautiful. Where'd you get that?
That's on Facebook. Lucy Raven put on our Facebook
Okay,
page.
I'd like to get that. I'd like to grab that if I could.
I'll send it to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's nice. I like that.
See, when we take a look at Facebook, I'm not on any of the other types of media out there, and when we
You know what
take.
you're missing.
Well, I have another article that I sent you guys
Well, you don't
about
have time.
social media. But anyway, the different comments and things, and there are progressives or Democrats that are still trying to promote the negativity, and it's unfortunate
Give
because
me an
that
example. Can you give us an example of that?
of who?
No, just what they're trying. What are they saying? Not who.
Oh, it talks about, there's quotes about how they're trying to apply it to Trump, and it has to do with his policy, what they think his policies will be.
He's going to follow Project 2025, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then Lincoln
okay.
Project, I mean, there's a whole list
all
of
right.
things with regard to that. They were out there saying, women's rights will be taken away, we're going back 50 years. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
But they always say that, Evelyn. I mean, I've been following elections since 1960. Okay, they always say that about Republicans. They're going to turn the clock back 50 years. I've heard that for 50 years.
Right, well, there
okay?
was another one that they had, and I did respond to it, and I did send you guys the article where it said about the billionaires that are supporting Trump. In reality, more billionaires supported Harris.
Oh, without
She
a
had
doubt.
an elite group, this is also on CNN.
Without a doubt.
She had an elite group of individuals that were representing the East Coast and the West Coast. She didn't get, like I like to say, in the trenches. She didn't understand, and I don't know if she ever has, understood the working class people, because that's where the Democrats used to be. Think about how many unions that stood with Trump.
And how many unions declined to endorse the Democrat?
And the newspapers.
That is a first. And we've had this conversation before, I think a few weeks ago. Bob and I got into it, and I was explaining how the party composition has completely flipped. I grew up in the 1950s, and you could not find a police officer, a firefighter, or any kind of a tradesperson who had the R after his name. It just didn't exist. They were all Democrats, every one of them. And that has completely flipped.
Yeah, but we grew up in
And the
Massachusetts.
it was true across the Republicans were the country club people and the board chairman. That's who the Republicans were.
Sam, you know all politics is
No,
local.
that wasn't the way it was. The
Oh, it
Democrats
was.
were Catholic and the Protestants were Republican.
Well, not
Well,
in my,
everybody can define it.
Actually, not in my town. Not in my town. In my town, because
Concord.
You Concord.
Then was Concord.
What used to be Concord, it's completely different now. But when I grew up in the 50s, the two biggest ethnics, other than the Yankees, were the Irish and the Italians.
Define the Yankees.
Okay, the Irish and the Italians.
They're not baseball players.
No, the Irish and the Italians in Concord made up more than half the population. Big communities. And the breakdown was pretty much this. You're going to laugh. The Irish were, 90% of the Irish Catholics were Democrats. Almost 90% of the Italian Catholics were Republicans. That was the breakdown, really, And we had a few, the Irish, Judge McGualter, Morris McGualter lived across the street, was this huge right-wing Republican, which was kind of unusual back then for the Irish people. And I used to deliver newspapers, right? And
What are those?
we had the Boston Globe, which
Even
was
I delivered newspaper.
the Boston Globe, which was a Democrat paper, and we had the Herald, which is a Republican paper. Okay, now Concord was at that time largely a Republican town, so I had mostly Heralds. And the Globe was running a promotion to try to push the Globe, sell the Globe. So I'm out there Saturday morning to my customers trying to get them to buy a Globe description. And I'm at the McWalter household, and the judge practically threw me out of the house. And I came back and I said to my father, well, my father says, how did it go trying to sell the Globes? And I said, not too good. And I said, Judge McWalter was really not happy that I was. My father says, oh my God, you didn't try to sell Morris a Globe, did you? He said, you're lucky you got out of there with your life. And I said, yeah. Now he was Irish and staunch Republican, okay, and so there were those exceptions, but that was the breakdown. The Irish were pretty much Democrats, and the Italians were pretty much
Now, would you please tell the audience what a Yankee is?
Well, a Yankee...
Just because the younger generation thinks they're baseball players.
They think they're baseball players. So in my day, the Yankee population...
Which is in the Wayback Machine last century.
The Yankee population pretty much restricted to New England, okay, the term, all right, and it meant to John's point, the Protestant, not Catholic, the Protestant population that could probably, their ancestry might tie back to, the founding of the country.
The Mayflower.
The Mayflower, that kind of thing, right. So,
they were the white elite Protestants.
Right, but not necessarily elite.
Well, you had farmers.
Yeah, a lot of farmers, not necessarily elite.
And the Irish had the white lace curtains.
The rich Irish were, lace curtain Irish. That,
but the other part about Yankees is that they claim they were stingy, kind of like.
Yeah, that's true.
People that were from Scotland,
they
talked about that they were cheap.
But now, Evelyn, you're stereotyping. Don't do that.
Well, I'm going back to the 50s. I'm going back to what I was brought up with.
No, you're right.
Because I don't fit into your other categories.
You're right.
So the way that my grandmother approached it, my grandmother was not from Scotland, she was from England. And
close.
My grandfather was, her husband. And she said, the Scots aren't cheap, they're thrifty.
Yeah, there's a big difference.
And that's the way that the Yankees were,
right.
In that they weren't hoarders, but they kept things in case because they bartered. It wasn't all about money, it was all about trade. And so you have a lot of negative connotations about it.
Oh, yeah.
That's what built this country in terms of its economics, is to go back and to see just what people didn't get, or they chose because they couldn't afford it, they couldn't get things, and so they made do with what they had.
On your thrifty remark reminds me of John Zimmerman. He says, I'm from Drake and we're cheap. I says, no, John, it's frugal. He says, no, I'm not wasting any extra letters, we're cheap.
Well, there's not a bigger Trump supporter than that guy, John
he's
Zimmerman.
Going to be tickled pink, John. Sam, it's your turn to read this.
Oh, okay. Let's see. This is a good point. Boy, you've got some good ones today. Celebrities can afford gas, milk, and eggs a lot easier than the average person. Their message fell on deaf ears. And that's a great comment. And if you watched the Democratic convention, if you want to call it that, okay, some people called it a coronation, but if you watch the Democratic convention, what struck me was all these super wealthy people lecturing to everybody, okay, at the convention, and talking about the average person and the plight of their life, and yet these folks are in the billionaire class, and you just have to look and say, wait a minute, I mean, what are you guys talking about? You have no clue what the average person has to go through every day just to survive.
They have a problem relating.
No clue what the average guy has to do.
And so CNN also, there were people yesterday morning that were discussing the fact that she brought out all these elitists, all of the Taylor Swift and all kinds of things, and they went through all of the different organizations that were established in order to support Harris, except for one thing. The people, the general public, know these people don't know what I'm going through because they have plenty of money. They're jetting all over the place.
Exactly.
They have, and it's kind of like Obama. If you've got these, double-digit million-dollar properties, how come you're not trying to help the homeless? And how come you're not putting money into all of these migrants and illegal aliens and everybody else that's coming across? I mean, you have all of these different things like that that's out there. Everybody gets one.
What is it?
It's my Swedish apple pie, except that I did something a little different with it.
I like that.
I used oat flour.
Why do you have to change your recipe every time you make it?
Because it's whatever I have on the shelf that I need to use up.
Every time you do something, I can't count that it's going to taste the way it...
This doesn't taste like that. This is crispier.
Oh, okay.
It's drier.
I use the first hour to try to get in as much as I can when I know a person like your husband's coming.
Okay, we'll let you have
No, I just want a few things I want to say. I think all politics are local.
Mm-hmm.
I watched like I said, I was on the show the other day that I was the host, and we had Lee Gitchia there, and he already said that he was leaving the seat, the Greater Lowell Technical High School School Committee.
Really?
Because he wants to enjoy his life and let someone else come on. Mm-hmm. Well, I look at that like this. I remember the lady next to me again that was on the school committee for, I won't say how many years, I'll say it that way. And that's why that school does so well, because of people like her. And like people like Lee well, hold on, let me finish. And people like Lee Gitchia. For him to say that, his brother has turned me on so much that it's the first time I ever wrote in somebody for different seats. Of course, I was holding a sign all day. My legs aren't like they used to be. I didn't hold the sign either. I knew where to put the sign and stand next to it for Karen Casella. And she didn't need anybody out there because she already won the race. But she showed me, I know I already won, Bob, but if you can help me, I'd appreciate it, because I want to show people that I'm here to do the job.
Well, that's good.
Ooh,
that's good. That's a good attitude.
It really was.
Yeah, I really
You
like
don't
her.
want to take it for granted.
Yeah, she's a good person.
I was in 7 elections, and I always been at the Pine School in South Lowell, Wigginville, whatever you want to call it. It's Belvedere to me. But anyways, I seen more Republican people than ever. And I seen a lot of people come out to vote, obviously, but a lot of people were for Carla Miller over Ed Kennedy, even though Ed Kennedy won. And I haven't seen the numbers, but I know he won by about 10,000 votes.
Oh, I'm
It's
sure.
because where we live.
Right.
But she had more support than I ever would have imagined at the Pine School that day. Because everybody, I stood with the two girls, a girl named Susan, I won't give last names, she was from Chelmsford, I'm pretty sure. Unbelievable how hard she worked for Carla Miller.
Well,
Did you
I'm not
notice-
surprised. Yeah, what I was a little surprised. Look at the Warren Deaton race. Now he got 40% of the vote.
Yeah.
Now I thought, in Mass, I thought that was pretty good. I thought he did very well.
And that's why Sam, this is what, I used to use comments like white flight, and that gets you in trouble too.
Of course.
People were moving out of Lowell, out of Lowell. Well, I think they already left, what I call
Where'd they
far
go?
left. They went to New Hampshire.
Yeah, it was just
I
unfortunate.
went to New Hampshire.
Just screwing up the state.
And that state's voting totally different.
No, they have a Republican governor. But one of the things that I noticed
that was
in this,
amazing.
One of the things that was different in this election than it was in 2020 is that people got tired of having the other side tell them not to say anything, or they were in fear for what was
Yes.
going to happen
Yes.
if they supported a Republican candidate. And a lot of people basically thumbed their noses and said, I don't care, this is where I'm going. But when we were talking before, which we will get into this probably in the second hour too, is that when they were doing some of the polling, and the Democrats did know that there were problems, and the question is whether or not Harris decided she wasn't going to believe it, or she was going to do it her way, or however it worked. It's hard to get into somebody else's head. It didn't seem to work because she didn't win, even though there was advice that was out there that she should do certain things and should not say certain things. She just went along and did whatever that was. I don't know who was giving her the advice or what it was that was happening, but there was a lot of people, and I'm included. I get a survey about how I'm going to vote, and I hang up. I'm not telling people how I'm going to vote on the telephone.
Exactly.
I don't want people to necessarily know. Now, I realize that, my mother's 103, and at this point she's not doing it. But when people used to call her, she would give them, they wish they hadn't. First she would tell them how old she was. Then she would tell them a brief history. Then she would tell them where the dog died. And she would also tell them that if the Republicans wanted to achieve something, they needed to get off their ass and do this, that, and the other thing. And I mean, she gave them a round of things and then hung up. Now, it made her feel better. I have no idea what happened on the other side. But again, during this particular election, what the Republicans learned, what Trump learned, what the leadership did in the Republican committee learned was, if you're going to have mail-in ballots, you're going to have early voting. And one of his comments was, we want to have so many votes they can't cheat against us. And if they do, they can't get enough votes to win.
He was telling people to bank your vote. That's what he said.
And I thought that was great. And that's pretty much what it was. Then there was the whole analysis, again, on MSNBC or CNN, and they were saying, oh, well, you know, all the Republicans that usually show up on the November 5th, they're voting early. You know, let's wait and see what happens on November 5th. Well, let me tell you, what happened on November 5th was you had lines like you wouldn't believe. Now, my youngest son lives in New Hampshire. It took them over an hour in line in their community to vote. When my oldest son, who lives in Chelmsford, went to vote, he said the only line was his precinct. And so there was an awful lot.
We had about half Chelmsford voters voted early.
Yeah, I voted early because I never know what's going to happen with regard to my mother. Right. And it's a good thing I did, because I had to watch my youngest grandson all day. I mean, there's a lot of pieces.
That's it. I mean, and
it's convenient.
While I'm thinking about it, since you brought up Chelmsford, I did look at the numbers yesterday. So the turnout in Chelmsford was 75%. That was the turnout. Do you know what the number was in Lowell?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, but John can certainly find that out. The other thing that happened in Chelmsford, which we will talk briefly at the 7 o'clock mark, is not only did we have 5 questions that was on the state ballot, there was a 6th question, and that was whether or not to rebuild.
Debt exclusion for,
yeah, it wasn't an override,
no.
And it was to rebuild or renovate the 2 fire stations, Fire Station 5
and 3.
And it passed, and it was significant. It wasn't close.
By a pretty good margin, yeah.
And so we were very pleased with that, not because we're going to spend more money, but because we're spending cheaper dollars today than we will tomorrow. And so it was a wise choice to be able to do that. I'm on the Permanent Building Committee, which now means I will have more work to do.
Oh.
And so we do have, Glenn Thoren is here. We have a few more minutes left in this hour.
You were asking about voting in Lowell.
Yeah, what was the turnout?
Looks like 33,000.
Right, but what percentage is it?
How many voters?
That's big.
I don't know.
We don't know, so the
He
percentage.
can certainly find that
We
out.
got about 70,000, Sam, maybe 75 registered
All right, so
voters.
that's
Seemed like
all
a
right,
pretty
so
big
that's
number.
like maybe close to 50%,
Looks like 33,677
Okay.
people voted.
So maybe about half the registered voters?
Yeah. You know,
It's easy enough to ask the question.
I'll go back to their website and see what. But
75% in Chelmsford, 75%
the city of
turnout.
Lowell moves at the speed of government, so I'm surprised this is up there.
you
Well,
know,
they had our
Well,
numbers.
the unofficial results in Chelmsford was up Tuesday night,
Oh, yeah, they had it up right away.
because of how everything is linked.
It's all electronic.
And it's a very well-run machine. I'd like to compliment the town clerk's office and all the
They
volunteers
did a
in
fantastic,
Chelmsford.
they did a fantastic.
Yep, as they have in the
Yep.
past, and I hope that they will continue to do so in the future. But there
Harrison
was.
Mayotte, good man.
What do you want? What do you want Glenn to? He's going to sit next
yeah, I
to you.
missed the point, though, when I was mentioning
We go to
Evelyn.
a break, we'll add a chair.
We got about a minute, but when I mentioned Evelyn was on the Chelmsford School Committee for many years, and I mentioned Lee Gitchia leaving the Greater Lowell Technical High School, see, I think all politics is local, and I'd love to see a guy like Lee Gitchia run against his brother for citywide
Oh, that would be
city
interesting.
council. Yes, because Lee is as popular, guaranteed it, as his brother is, and his brother, I wrote his brother's name in under Laurie Trahan. I wrote in Eric Gitchia. And under Vanna Howard, the state rep, I wrote Dave Nagel, and I've never felt so secured with my votes as I did this year. I know people aren't going to like it when I say I voted on the questions yes, yes, no, no, no. That's how I voted.
And we'll be back.
Thank you
Hey,
for the time.
It's your
Stay
vote.
with us.
You can do what you
We'll
want.
be back shortly.
I felt so secured with my votes as I did this year. I know people aren't going to like it when I say I voted on the questions yes, yes, no, no, no. That's how I voted.
And we'll be back.
Thank you for the time.
It's your
Stay
vote.
with us.
Do what you
We'll
want.
be back shortly.
Secured with my votes as I did this year. I know people aren't going to like it when I say I voted on the questions yes, yes, no, no, no. That's how I voted. Thank you for the time. It's your
Stay
vote.
with us.
Do what you want. Secured with my votes as I did this year. I know people aren't going to like it when I say I voted on the questions yes, yes, no, no, no. That's how I voted. Thank you for the time. It's your vote. Do what you want. I know people aren't going to like it when I say I voted on the questions yes, yes, no, no, no. That's how I voted. Thank you for the time. It's your vote. Do what you want.
Nice show.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Evelyn Thoren. I'm your host until the 8 o'clock time frame. City Life is on, and we just finished a whole hour for the Dawn Patrol. It's hard not to talk about politics this morning. We have Sam Chase and Bob Hoey as my co-hosts. John McDonough is behind the camera, sometimes on the camera. You may hear his voice in the background. And we have Glenn Thoren as our guest this morning. And welcome, Glenn.
Did you just say we're not going to talk about politics?
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Listen
I-
carefully. But before we do that, one of the things
It's like at home, you don't listen to her.
he can't hear me. He can't hear me. And it's a proven thing amongst men is that there's certain frequencies, and it's usually their wife's voice. And that's
All we hear is dinner.
yeah, any meal. One of the things I didn't talk about in the first hour, just it'll only take a minute. There was an article I sent out to you guys, and it was from the New York Times about an Arab student in Israel who didn't realize what she posted and reposted on Facebook was a violation of Israeli law. She was prosecuted, arrested, and she now has like no job. She can't go back to her. She was expelled from
You
the
mean as
university
a result of what she said?
of what she shared.
What-
That she didn't
okay.
even say it.
Oh, okay.
And so everybody be very cautious about what it is you put up. Not because in this country we don't have free speech, but we do need to be cautious about what it is because it can come back to haunt you maybe in the future. So we'd be cautious about that.
Good
so,
advice.
we had an election on Tuesday. Amazing that
We
we
did?
had one. Yes, surprise. So I'm going to just let Glenn have some opening remarks. We'll
Go.
see what the questions are and where the discussion will lead us this morning.
We've been talking about this for a while, but now it's safe to say it's morning in America. You know, the overwhelming repudiation of the Democrat policies, the continuing destruction of our country with open borders and, you know, energy deficient policies and international ignorance. It was stunning. And the fact that people could see it in their own pocketbooks and got out to vote to say enough of this nonsense was extremely heartwarming. So now we have a real president that's coming into office that knows how to run things, that has managed businesses in the past and built essentially an empire that hired people and created jobs. And the fact that he surrounded himself with people like RFK Jr., whose intent is to make America healthy again, which I hadn't really thought about until he came into the campaign of President Trump. But it is so important. If people are, you know, getting swamped with chronic diseases now that, you know, didn't exist when I was growing up, that's a big deal.
You are what you eat.
Yeah, well, apparently, and sometimes you don't have a choice what you eat because it's what's in the store. You know, what we buy in the store, exactly the same packages, is not the same food as you would buy in England or even Canada. And so to see the, you know, unlimited repudiation of the Democrat policies and Democrat politicians and so forth, and an election night was extremely heartwarming because common sense returned to America. And you know, there's a lot to say about that. We can go state by state. We can go through Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. We can go to the South and understand what people were saying. The big difference was that the Harris campaign was based on lying to you, and the Trump campaign was based on listening to you. And the discrimination between the two couldn't be more stark, that President Trump went to the places where people were and heard what they needed and heard what they said. And I took notes during the Vice President's big speech at the Ellipse, and after the first 20 lies, I decided to stop taking notes. I said, this is ridiculous. You know, he's called soldiers suckers and losers. No, he didn't. He's going to put a registry together for pregnant women. No, he won't. He's got an enemies list that he's going to put in jail. No, he won't. He's going to send the military against American citizens. No, he won't. You know, if there's a riot like happened in 2020, yeah, he would probably have the National Guard go in and quell the riot. But that's not the same as going to chase down people that disagree with you. So the lies were just overwhelming, and the American people heard those lies and said, enough of this. We're not going to do that anymore.
Well, they've been hearing it for 8 years, Glenn. That's the other thing. It isn't just recent. I mean, you know, you can only call a person names for so long before it runs into the reality of what people can see. Okay.
Right. Bidenomics is working.
Yeah.
You know, even though everything's up 30% or more, and you don't have any money left in your home budget, it's working. Well, maybe it is. Maybe that's exactly what they wanted to do. And when they started saying, you know, we're going to change your estate tax to take more money away from you even when you die, we're going to raise taxes on everybody, I mean, it's crazy.
Yesterday.
Yeah, please don't fly on over.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, that's a good one. But
Yeah, well,
I haven't heard a report on that yet.
right. Let me give you one very brief example. A conversation I had recently. So the person I'm talking to, well, you know, when Trump gets in, you know, more tax cuts and the billionaires and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, now listen, I'm not a billionaire. I'm not even close. I'm not poor, but I'm not what you would call rich either, okay? I'm like most people. All I can tell you is that when Trump was in office the first time, and he put the so-called Trump tax cuts into place, that year, I do my own taxes, because I'm an accountant, everybody knows that, right? I do my own taxes, and I saved $6,000. So the Trump tax cuts in 2017 or 18, whenever they became effective, I don't remember, I saved $6,000. I'm not a millionaire.
That's almost real money.
It is. I'm not a millionaire. So if Harris had been reelected, one of the things they said they were going to do was eliminate the so-called Trump tax cuts.
Let it
so
expire,
if you adjust for inflation and where I am in my income tax bracket, so that would have probably cost me about $7,500. And I'm a real person. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not a really rich person. So please don't tell me that, you know, the average people were not affected by the Trump tax cut policy. Taxes came down for almost every wage earner, okay? They did.
That's right.
And I think people, you know, so you talk to me and you say, you tell me what you think the reality is, and I said, well, now, wait a minute. I'm telling you, I actually lived this. I do my own taxes, I know what my income is, and I saved money under Trump. Okay, so is there any...
you billionaires are all alike,
I know.
Sam.
I guess I'm a bad billionaire person. But the point I'm getting at is I think most people saw through that rhetoric. And
They saw
said,
through
"Wait
a
minute,
lot of things.
What she is saying is not true because that has not been my experience." Okay, I guess that's what the point I'm trying to make. So...
But there was something
Right.
that you had said to me on a telephone conversation, and I think it's been stated here in the past,
Yeah.
but we're going to state it again. And that had to do with when they talk about, the billionaires, millionaires, they have to pay their fair share.
They do.
Now, I don't want to discuss whether or not they have a whole lot of money or they don't. It has to do with, again, some data. You talked about the data with Bill Riley earlier about how many, counties there were and how many everybody won, in his analysis. But you said that 1% of the people in this country pay 42% of the taxes.
Now, and this
is that fair?
This is not just my opinion, okay? These statistics can be easily found by going to the Internal Revenue Service's website. This is data from the IRS, so they know because they keep statistics on that stuff. So, and this was, it's a little bit old, I think it was 2021 data, but 1% of the nation's, the top 1%, and of course the Democrats like to talk about the top 1%, for income and so forth. The top 1% of income earners in this country pay 42% of the federal income tax. So, I don't get it. I mean, billionaires don't pay their fair share. They're paying 40, and as a percentage of number of people in the country, that 1% is very small. It's a
Right.
small number of people. They're paying 42%.
And Sam, how much do the lower 50%?
Zero. None.
Okay.
Zero. Half the country, half the people in the country that have income do not pay any federal income tax. So I would say that that's a pretty lopsided distribution of who pays, okay? So if you know those statistics, and these aren't Trump statistics, these aren't right-wing statistics, these are statistics from the Internal Revenue Service, okay?
So these statistics weren't in red ink, these were just black ink?
No,
statistics?
it's just data, and it's available to anybody that has an internet connection, okay?
So one of the things that tremendously impressed me, because this really didn't have to happen, is this gentleman named Elon Musk. And if anybody here has seen him bring back a 20-story incredible booster engine that put a spaceship into low Earth orbit, and catch it in the air with the equipment that he had down in Texas was just breathtaking.
Are you saying not everybody can do that?
Nobody can do that.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Trump said it is accepted.
Yeah, I heard that.
yeah, the U.S. government can't do that.
Nobody can do it.
The Russians can't do that. The Chinese can't do that. But Elon Musk can do that. And everybody said because he is so genius-like, I found that a lot of my left-leaning friends says, well, it's not, he didn't really do that. He had people that knew how to do that working for him and stuff like that. I said, wait a minute.
But Glenn, they liked
Wait a
him.
minute.
They liked him when he was a Democrat.
Oh, of course
Didn't they?
Because he had electric cars.
Right.
But one of the
And you
things
have to buy an electric car.
Right, but one of the things the Democrats did not do, at least what we saw this time around, they did not include those kind of people in what their vision was for the country. They just wanted their money. Give me your money, we'll spend it, and you go off and you do your little thing to make more money.
So this is, I was trying to make a point, which I haven't gotten to yet.
Well,
So
I'm letting you
I'm
know.
gonna-
Today,
I'm going to cycle back to what I was trying to say before. So
This is the way it goes.
Elon Musk, here's a guy who knows how to get things done, whether it's traveling into space or building an electric car industry and stuff. He knows how to get things done, and he realized that America was suffering from a couple of serious deficiencies. One, lack of free speech. with the left-wing media controlling free speech, which is why he bought Twitter, lost money on it, and still is allowing it to be a free speech haven. And the second thing that impressed President Trump, which is why they embraced each other, is he knows how not to waste money. And so President Trump is going to bring Elon Musk into an adjacent position with the administration to be the Department of Government Efficiency.
Oh my
I just
God.
love the name.
That's unheard of.
And so he was asked on stage once, how much money per year do you think you can save by making the government more efficient? And it just blew my socks off. He said, about $2 trillion a year? And I said, well, that's going to be a good one.
Well,
so,
let me just interrupt for a minute, because I don't know if that's the right number, but I believe it, because do you remember the Grace Commission?
Oh, I do, yeah.
Yeah, we're going back. Sorry, John.
Because we're old.
John doesn't
'cause
like
we're
this.
old.
This is the last century.
What year?
Oh, this is at least...
1936?
No, this is at least 40 years, okay? The Grace Commission did a study, and they concluded at that time, with that level of dollars, that the government was wasting $200 billion a year. So now if you want to adjust that number...
Multiply times 10.
For the inflation...
Multiply it times 10.
It sounds like Mr. Musk may be correct.
getting static.
And the Grace Commission, that isn't just somebody's opinion. The Grace Commission, which was a bipartisan group, they actually studied government operations.
Right.
And that was the conclusion, and they presented their report to Congress and was not acted upon, because you're talking about people's jobs at that point in the federal government and bureaucracy, and they weren't about to implement any of those reforms.
Speaking of which, they peeled the onion away from the recent jobs reports. You know, they were trying to make the claim that American business is doing great because look at all these new jobs. You know where most of those jobs were? Government jobs. So the Harris-Biden administration was hiring people into the government to make the jobs picture look good.
And just remember, government jobs in terms of productive jobs, in other words, something is actually produced of real value. This is based on economics. A government job cannot exist unless money is taken out of the private sector first.
Right.
Okay, in the form of taxation. So when you take money out of the private sector, it impacts the number of real productive jobs that can be created.
Like the ones Elon Musk
So
has.
you take money out of the private sector, you get a decrease in productive private sector jobs, and you put that money into the government where nothing of value or wealth is actually produced. Okay? And that's the problem.
This is a very educational show that we're in right now.
Well, I'm an accountant.
Sam is a wealth of
Just a
information.
minute, children.
Right.
The government can print as much money as they want to.
Yeah, it
That's
screws
right.
everything up.
And that's the problem.
So,
Yeah.
I know you don't like that, Glenn, but we've been doing it your entire lifetime. We've been printing extra money every year.
Yeah, and I haven't liked it for almost my entire
And
lifetime.
you know what? It hasn't hurt us at all, because when you travel, would they prefer the local money or would they prefer American dollars?
Well, that's because...
They prefer American dollars.
But the point, John,
Yeah, but that
is
can
that
easily
the printing
change
of
overnight.
extra money is what creates inflation. And,
Right.
and your analogy is okay, except for one thing. The other countries are doing the same thing. They're printing money, too, and putting it into their
Well,
economies.
but again, when you stack up, you put a stack of rubles next to a stack of dollars, the first thing stolen off the table is going to be the dollars. They're
That's
not going to
because-
steal the rubles.
Right, because the U.S. dollar is still the world currency.
Backed by capitalism.
Make more. Make
know,
more.
Backed by capitalism.
Today, when I came in, I'm saying, what am I going to ask Glenn Thoren? Because I think of my brother-in-law that's a chemical engineer that works for Lockheed. And before phones came around, I used to write letters to each other and he'd send him. He lives in California, a city called Saratoga, beautiful place. He'd send back the letter and correct all my grammar. So when I go to ask you a question, about what I felt is safety, okay? I have 5 grandchildren. I want to leave this world safer. And it's always been about China in my head, not Russia, not Israel, not Ukraine, none of that stuff. I worry more about China than anything else in the world. And I felt so good when Trump got elected because I think the Republican Party will keep my grandchildren safer. That's all.
So you make a huge point, because the fentanyl coming into this country, the illegal aliens, which, you know, it doesn't take a large percentage, but, you know, a percentage are criminals, You know, and you can see the crimes that they've been committing in this country, and it's not to say all the illegal aliens are bad people, because many of them are not. They're just normal people that
most of them are not.
want a better life, but that's not how this works.
Right.
You know, this is not the laws. We have laws for a reason. We're a country of laws, and if you want to come into our country, get in line. And there's a caravan coming up now with 4,000 people that are trying to get into this country before President Trump takes office, because he's going to close down the border. Now, here's the thing. Is Harris and Biden going to let them just cross the border, you know, with no resistance whatsoever? That would show what evil, despicable people they really are. Just let's keep the border open. Let's keep it open and let these people come in, you know, before Trump becomes president and seals the border, which is what our country is based on, having borders. You know, if they let those people in, that will write their legacy as the kind of people that they really are, and they're not American.
Which candidate did the Border Patrol officers favor?
Oh, it was easy, overwhelmingly President Trump.
Do you think there's a reason for that?
Now, let me think about that.
Okay.
Well, he actually has visited the border. He actually has supported them. He actually has tried to do things in order to make their life slightly easier than it could be. But you had, which people continued to repeat, in that, well, you know, border crossings are down. Well, they're looking at the border crossings in the south. They're not looking at the border crossings in the north. And they're certainly not looking at how many border crossings there are that are flights coming in from other countries.
That's a good point. It isn't just the southern border.
Exactly.
There are people telling us that live in northern New England.
Yes.
There's a lot of people coming across.
Yes.
Because there's only so many legal crossings coming into the country, and it's a lot different than the ones in the south. And if anybody saw the movie Red Dawn, please go see it again and see how that goes.
Percentage-wise, the northern crossings are much smaller, but they're there, and they're greatly increased. And Bob, you know, your comment about securing, you know, safety for your grandchildren and the American people, that's huge. People don't hear Trump say this very often, but when he said it, it really registered with me. If the cartels are bringing people in, if they're bringing fentanyl into this country that kills, what is it, 100,000 Americans every year? Does that number sound right? I think so.
That might be a low number, but yeah.
Yeah, 100,000 people a year. That's an attack on this country. Trump said he would go after the cartels wherever they are.
What he said was he'd put them on the terrorist watch list.
That too.
All right, and that's a legal mechanism. Okay, so once those people are on the Department of Treasury is one that maintains those lists. Once it's on the Treasury list, now you have legal mechanisms available to you to prosecute and go after those people. And so I thought the statement, I heard him say it, he said, I would put the cartels on the watch list. And I thought, yes, that's exactly right.
But more than that, if he knows where they are in Mexico, and the Mexican government is not doing anything about it, our government can. And could do that.
My feeling is that they will be doing something about it.
You know, when you got an 18-year-old grandson, right, that's all I'm really thinking about. I got 5 grandkids, but wow, that's what I was really trying to make a point with China. And I don't feel the world is safe. I just don't. And I think with Trump in there, I think he'll beef that up. I think you're going to see a lot of generals retire early, especially the ones that were against them.
They should.
The woke generals.
That's what I'm worried about.
And you
more
know,
than anything.
Glenn knows, because his entire adult life he's dealt with the defense industry.
That's my environment.
So he knows exactly, and you and I know a little bit because we were in the service. We understand how the hierarchy works, and there are a lot of once you hit the rank of a general officer, I mean, it's almost 100% political at that point.
But people don't know that.
You don't get above the rank of lieutenant colonel without being a politician.
They think of George Patton as general.
No.
It's not at all like that.
No, and there are
Omar Bradley. It's not at all like that.
But there are some really good ones. But there are a lot that are political folks as well, and you know, they're not used to being. You get to be at that level in the military. You're used to having your rear end kissed all the time.
I've been in meetings with.
Am I wrong?
Okay, guys, we're going to do our announcements. I'm going to shut your mics off.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. Everyone's favorite part of the show.
Favorite part of the show.
Rolling eyes over there. I love it. Okay. If you want an announcement on the show, just send me a text, email, whatever you want to do is good with me. Veterans in Lowell. They're going to honor Veterans Day in Lowell on Friday. And I don't know why it's Friday. I thought it was 11/11, but shitty manager has decided we will celebrate on Friday. Or we will honor the Veterans Day on Friday. So the event time is Friday, 11/8/2020, 10 o'clock in the morning at the Veterans Memorial Park, 150 Douglas Road. And if you can RSVP with the Lowell Veterans Center is encouraged. So that's it for Veterans Day. Coming up this weekend, Marty Lurie sent me this yesterday, and Grassroots Gratitude Celebration. They're going to have Trump trains, flag waving, speakers, thank you, catered lunch, and that's going to be up in Salem, New Hampshire for Donald Trump this Saturday. The times are there, 9 o'clock in the morning for the Trump trains, and a lot of smiles, a lot of flag waving. Be a good time up there. Town of Tewksbury Veterans Day. Oh, Veterans is honoring Veterans Day on Veterans Day. How is that? Wow. Okay. So, Town of Tewksbury Veterans Day ceremony will be Monday, November 11th, 11 o'clock in the morning at the Town Common. 10,000 for the people who need the address is 1009 Main Street. Moving right along here to the next announcement. Paul Valet sent me this, the boat. They're going to raise money for the Salvation Army, and they're going to have a great time. Sunday, November 17th at 2 o'clock at the boat. That's out in Drake. The address is 294 Tingsboro Road. And they also have a website, theboat.com. So a lot of good times are going to be happening that day. We'll be talking about that next week. Food drive. The Lowell Police Department respects the fact that not everybody has a ton of food in their fridge. So they're having this collection thing, and beginning November 1st, so it's going on right now, the Lowell Police Department is collecting non-perishable food items for the Merrimack Valley Food Bank. Residents can drop off food in the collection box located at the Lowell Police Department main lobby. So just, if you're out there shopping and you throw something extra in your cart and bring it down to the police station for the people who are in need. This is a pretty cool idea. This guy's name is Father Conway. He's the pastor over at St. Rita's Church in Lowell. And he's going to have a Eucharistic procession. I talked to him about this. He does it every year. I didn't know that. But it's coming up November 24th, and we'll keep talking about this as it comes along. But God bless the guy. That's pretty cool. He's going to walk all around the city. You can see the map on the bottom there. St. Ferdinand's Book Club out in charming Chelmsford. Whoops, wrong button there. St. Ferdinand's Church. They have St. Ferdinand's Book Club. Parishioners and friends of St. Ferdinand's are welcome to join the church's book club, where you can enjoy fellowship and engage in lively discussion over a monthly book selection. For more information, they have a website there. And moving right along, why isn't that not moving down to the next one? Okay, free bus rides. Oh yeah, beginning December 1st, you can ride any LRTA bus for absolutely free. And it's going to continue through the end of September of 2025. So, pretty cool program. And that's the end of my announcements. Before we go back to you guys, I want you guys to realize, and you probably already do, 67 million people love Harris. Almost 68. 72 million people love Donald Trump. What are we going to do to get everybody happy? Nobody...
You'll never have everybody happy.
Okay, the majority of the people happy. What are we going to do to get the majority of the people happy? And I think that's going to be incoming President Trump's and outgoing President Biden's biggest problem is how to unite the country in a positive fashion.
Good question.
Well, are our microphones on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So in her, quote, concession speech, unquote, Vice President Harris called on her supporters to continue to fight. Continue to fight for what they've been fighting President Trump against during this campaign. That sounds very, reconciliatory to me, not. So if you want to continue to fight, then you're going to create more chaos which is what she created during her campaign of lies. So how are you going to bring people together? You know, they said, well, President Trump's got an enemies list and he's going to arrest the people that disagree with him. Again, all lies. And you can't win an election just throwing lies like that out. What's going to happen is, as President Trump said, his, quote, revenge, unquote, which isn't revenge as we would know it, is going to be success.
Right.
And to show people that everything that was said about him that were clearly lies were wrong. And by doing what he said he was going to do, you'll be able to see that America will be able to regain a stronger economy. The military has been not meeting its quotas for new soldiers or airmen or Marines because they don't want to be in a woke military where, you know, you're looking at advertisements that have gay people doing, you know, gay day in the Marine Corps. That doesn't happen. That's going to stop.
That's not the purpose of the military.
Right. The purpose of the military is to defend the country and kill as many people as necessary to do it. You know, it may sound harsh, but that's the way you defend a country.
And it's not a knock necessarily against any of the minority groups. It's that, you know, the purpose is what it is that you need to achieve, not all of the social aspects of things, because you don't see any other countries doing it. Right?
No.
I just hope everybody listens to the richest man in the world. You brought him up,
Yes.
Elon Musk. And I heard him say, I don't know what the age was, but stop taking taxes off the elderly in this country.
Right.
I like that.
We've
idea.
already paid.
I think that was part of the no tax on
Social Security. Yep.
Now, you know, it's funny because I had a discussion again, because I'm interested in the financial aspect of it. And what I was able to find out was that that's kind of a catchphrase. And then she picked up on it, all right? But if that actually comes to pass, really what it's going to be is there'll be a threshold. So if I'm a person, if I'm a retired person and I have an aggregate income of $250,000, and part of that is Social Security, I will continue to pay taxes on my Social Security. What Trump is talking about is if your only income is Social Security, if you're a low-income person and your only income is Social Security, we're going to help you on that.
So that's a means test.
So it's a means test.
Yep.
Okay, he didn't say that, but that, if it ever is implemented, that's what will happen. So relatively wealthy people that are collecting Social Security, and they should because they earned it, they will continue to be taxed. And actually, if you look at the tax code, it already does work that way. Okay, so if you are only living on Social Security, there is a threshold and a means. You will not pay tax.
Well, that's your income. Remember we talked about the income levels when we were talking about the fair share.
There's income and there's wealth, two different things, okay? Two different things.
Right.
All right? And you can't, what is grossly unfair, in my opinion, is the taxing or even the talking, and this is where they really went off the rails, when they started talking about taxing unrealized capital gain.
They drove it into the ditch.
And what that means is, Evelyn, that if you bought your house in 1980 and you paid, I don't know what you paid, $200,000?
88.
Oh, even better.
You paid,
paid 88. So now, I'm an assessor, so I know these things. So your house is worth probably about $800,000 now. So if the government came in and said, well, now wait a minute, that's an unrealized capital gain. Dr. Thoren, you're going to have to pay a tax on approximately $700,000. And you're going to say, well, wait a minute, I don't have the money. Well, of course you don't. It's in your house.
You'll have to sell your house
You'll
to pay
have
your
to
tax.
sell your house to pay your tax, okay? And most people looked at that and said, what?
Are you out of your
Are
mind?
you out of your cotton-picking minds? Because that's ridiculous, all right? But that's really, the house
But
is
that's the way the Democrats think.
just
You
unbelievable.
know,
Unbelievable.
if your stocks go up on paper, you pay a tax on the unrealized capital gains.
You pay a tax on money that you don't have.
You don't have it, but if they go down, what happens? Nothing.
No, you don't get a refund.
You know, nothing. You don't get no refund. So the Democrats think, you know, any way I can take money away from you and put it to the general good, it's better for the country than letting you have your own money.
I don't think there was, that, to me, that was a pure talking point. If she had gotten elected, you would never have seen that. And the simple truth is because so many of the Democrats that are in office are multimillionaires,
Right.
and it would impact them.
And they became multimillionaires while they were in
Right.
office.
So it was never going to happen, but it was just a talking point to rile people up and create class warfare. That's all it was. It was never going to happen. But look at the dishonesty behind that. That's what gets me.
But that's the whole campaign.
The dishonesty in doing something like
That's
that.
the whole campaign.
You know, when I look at
outrageous.
Elon Musk, and
Right.
to me, he's the king of electric cars, let's say. And Trump,
The king of electric cars.
Trump is a drill baby drill.
Yeah.
Now, there's, you know, how many cars are in America? I couldn't even fathom how
Millions.
that number is.
Millions,
But
millions and millions.
even in this state, they don't want me to use propane grills anymore. Things like that are coming in this state, and I don't even know why. Fossil fuels, basically.
What do we got here, Ev?
You have like an apple crisp this morning.
Oh, boy, that looks good. But, yeah, I just think seeing them two get along so well makes me feel good, because there has to be some type of, you know, Elon Musk has to think we need less fossil fuels, and Trump is telling me we need, I don't know the answer.
No,
but
I think the answer is we need everything. I mean,
Right,
there's nothing wrong with it. I like electric cars. They work pretty well, and I think they have a place. There's a proper application and use for them. But for the federal government or the state governments, because a lot of states are doing this, to dictate that you're not going to have those choices going forward.
That's the whole
That is
argument.
absolutely wrong. So
Elon Musk is a free speech guy.
Right.
Which is why he bought Twitter.
And a
he's
free
also
market.
a free market
Right.
choice guy.
Right, exactly.
You know, and so look at the space launches that he has. So he does about 80 to 85% of all the space launches on the planet today. And most of them are commercial. So he said, you know, well, you can go to the government, you can take your launches over to Russia, you can blah, 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 but I can put them into the air. You know, and so people come to him because his success rate of putting satellites in orbit and doing other things is greater than any government on the planet.
Well, he gets stuff done.
Right.
Okay?
Well, that's another person that gets stuff done.
He gets stuff done.
And when we were talking about fossil fuels and all of those people out there that are listening to us that are into the climate control type of thing, we're not against having logical, straightforward solutions to the environmental impact of whatever pollution
Of
we
anything.
have. Define
Right.
pollution, it comes in many categories. But when you have, like for instance, my heating system in my house in Chelmsford, that is natural gas, and it's 96% efficient, and it has the least amount of impact to the atmosphere, why are we going to do something different than that, than to use that, where they want to get rid of everything that's gas? There are things they need to do to improve the efficiencies of some appliances, and there's a lot of other stuff that's out there. So we have that, but one of the things before we, run out of time, we had the analysis, you and I yesterday morning were listening to CNN, and they were talking about the platforms of the respective presidential candidates, where her platform was X and his platform was Y. And then they talked, and we briefly mentioned this morning, about which platform was the platform that the American people related to the most.
And the answer is?
And so I'm going to turn that over. Yeah, well, no, it's not just money. But anyway, I'll throw that one out.
Economy and immigration. Now, she ran heavily on abortion rights. First of all, there's no right to abortions in the U.S. Constitution, in spite of all the words that they've been throwing out there for years. There's no right to that.
I haven't seen it.
Well,
I've read the Constitution, as you have, several times.
Yeah, I've got a lot of stories about it.
I haven't seen it.
I carry the Constitution with me. You know, it's in my briefcase. I had some interesting interchange on an airplane flight from Washington, D.C. Years ago, but when I pulled out the Constitution to make my argument, the guy next to me, who was part of the Obama healthcare plan, he practically flipped over because he was telling me things that were in the Constitution. He said, well, let's look it up. I pulled out the Constitution. He says, you have a Constitution with you? I said, yeah, sure.
Who do you think you are, Sam Irvin?
Yes, and then you had somebody else that was listening to you.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
All the people around me in the chair said this was a PhD MD from Harvard University who was working with Obama on the health care plan. We need a national health care plan like the VA has. Covers everybody. It takes good care of everybody. The VA? Excuse me?
Oh, boy.
And he said, well, things were in the Constitution. I said, no, they're not. When I pulled out the Constitution, what he was trying to make an argument with is the U.S. has to follow international law. And I said,
no.
That's not in the Constitution.
No, it doesn't.
And so I pulled it out. The only thing about international law is the Congress, the Senate gets to decide on the treaties that we sign up to internationally, and that's it.
Yep.
The guy was flabbergasted that somebody next to him had a Constitution, and this conversation went on for at least a half an hour, maybe longer. And as he left the plane, the people who were sitting around me said, oh, that was great. That was great. That should have been on television. And I said, yeah, sometimes you have to discuss things in detail.
There's nothing like facts.
And it was like at the end of the conversation that you told him your education.
Oh yeah, he was trying to say, I've got a PhD in medical science. I've got an MD from Harvard and stuff like that. Trying to say that I know what I'm talking about. You don't. I said, well, I have a PhD in applied engineering physics from Cornell University. I think I can think.
As Ben Shapiro would say, that's an argument from authority.
Yeah, that's
okay?
right.
And you remember the John Tebow story, right?
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was a
okay.
good story.
This man, John Tebow, is a Chelmsford resident, very well known and extremely highly successful business person, worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. And years ago, he ran for the state senate against Susan Fargo. Okay. And John ran on the Republican ticket. So we were preparing John for his debate, and I said, now, John, very, very successful guy. I worked with him for many years at Wang Labs. Very highly intelligent guy. I said, John, I'm going to prepare you because there will be a question on your formal education. He said, there will. I said, whenever there is a candidate running who does not have a college degree, you always get a question on education designed to embarrass you and flesh out the fact that you don't have a degree.
Yeah,
I said, you get two guys running with college degrees, there's no question. They don't even ask it. But I'm telling you, so I'm just giving you this advice so that you will be prepared. He said, okay, I got it, right? So we get into the debate. It's over at the Chelmsford Library. The very first question, please describe your educational credentials. So Senator Fargo, who was a very nice lady, she and I got along really well, she says, well, she says, I have a bachelor's degree from Wellesley, and I have a master's degree from Boston University, and I have a CAGS from some other place, and, I'm halfway through a PhD, and she goes on and on and on. The woman had more degrees than a thermometer, okay? So then I thought, well, this is going to be good, because I had no idea what was going to come out of John's mouth. So she finishes, and John looks at her, and he says, well, Suze, he says, you have 3 degrees. I have $300 million. Next question.
Yeah, right. Because he earned it.
And that's the point, okay? Yeah. And they were shocked. They were shocked. So
Elon Musk dropped out of Stanford, I think.
Well, there you go. So it's the same thing.
Evelyn, you want to read this one?
When you have a world that run on fossil fuels, it's tough to change everyone's mind to EVs. That's true.
I want to ask the panel, mostly for Glenn, what's going to happen to all of the trials that Donald Trump...
They're gone.
Yeah, they're gone.
I'll give you the answer, John.
Yeah, that's something I'm going to hear.
Jack Smith is unwinding
Who's Jack Smith?
He's the prosecutor for the Florida trial against the document trial. So he's going to get fired. The day that Trump gets in office, he'll be fired.
I think so.
Because he's incompetent. But besides that, the trials that he is supporting will be dismissed because the quote, the reason is the Justice Department does not try a sitting president. So those will go away. the kangaroo court trial in New York, which is supposed to have, it's either this week or next week, the decision on, what the penalty for President Trump will be for being a felon. That it is a total joke. The instructions from the judge were fallacious, and so it'll definitely be overturned on appeal, but he's got to decide whether to carry it forward because he violated the Supreme Court guidance on amnesty for presidential actions that were done as a president. So that's likely to go away, and the one in Georgia is hung up in all kinds of disputes because of the relationship between the prosecutor and her assistant. I forget what his name was, but there was a breach of legal etiquette and issues there. I mean, legal issues there that should destroy that RICO trial. So that'll likely go away because they'll take it away from the people that are trying it, and it'll go to a different group of people in Georgia that voted for Trump, by the way, and they'll have to decide whether to continue with it. So all those lawfare things that they tried to put him in jail on, they're all gone.
Gotcha. Now, what do you think of the rumor that President Biden will forgive his son and President Trump for our wrongdoings?
He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to pardon them because they're going to go away anyway. Now his son, there's a couple ways to do it. The way I would do it is I'd have Biden talk to President Trump.
Yeah, this is perfect.
And when President Trump was inaugurated, for him to say we've had enough of this going on, I'm going to pardon your son. Go have a happy life and stay out of trouble.
That's the right thing to do.
However,
That's what
that all being stated, with regard to your question, you do have Letitia James that
here we go,
gave
yeah.
a speech yesterday,
Disgusting person.
and so we could.
What did she say?
Well, that's where I'm going. We can have the discussion about what it was that she stated and what should we take away from that? So I'll turn that back.
Well, Letitia
to you.
James basically stated, I'm not going to give her exact words, but here's what the message she was trying to get across is that we haven't been able to get Trump yet, but when he becomes president, I'm likely to go after him if he blinks his eyes too fast. I'm going to find a charge to stick on him.
Now, there is prima facie evidence of a mentally ill person.
Yeah.
That would say something like that.
Bragg, who was a prosecuting attorney, and Letitia James, who's the AG for New York, ran on the fact that she would get Trump.
Yeah.
That was her campaign.
Yeah.
Is there any bias that you might interpret from that?
There's something wrong with that woman's brain.
And you think Governor DeSantis is the best governor in the country? Would you say that?
He is pretty good.
He's right up there.
He is pretty good, yeah.
Well, yeah, and people who live in Florida are really concerned about who their next governor will be, because apparently there is a cap on how many times you can be governor. So we'll see
How
what
many
that.
terms?
Yeah, how many
A
terms?
lot of the southern states do that.
I remember when
He's a
Ross
great
Perot
governor.
was running, right? His vice president, I believe it was a rear admiral, I forget the name, but he fell asleep.
Stockdale or
Yeah,
something
he
like
fell
that.
asleep during the debate.
Yes, he
with-
did. That was very bad.
But this Vance kid, vice president.
He's a kid. He's a kid.
He's under 40. He's a kid.
I think that was a great pick.
That's okay.
No,
We're
I
all
think
in
it was
our
a great pick.
70s.
I think it was a great pick.
My kids are younger than him.
Yeah, that's why I call him a
Boy,
kid.
that's a sobering thought.
My kids are
It's
older
funny,
than him.
my oldest granddaughter, who's 11, asked me yesterday, she said, and she kind of followed the election, and she said, Papa, she says, now, how old do you have to be president? And I said, well, the minimum age is 35. And I said, that's in the Constitution. So I said, you can't be president if you're under 35. Well, she says, well, what about the vice president? And I said, well, it doesn't specifically say about the vice president, but the implication is the vice president would have to be at least 35 in the event that he would have to take over the presidency. Right. So I said I would say the minimum age for the vice president would also be 35. And she looked at me and she says, well, is Vance old enough? Because she watches Vance. He's over 35.
He's 40-something, early 40s.
Yeah, so she looked at him and she wondered if he was old enough. If something should happen to President Trump, was Vance old enough to take over? That was Charlotte's question, and I thought, he's an 11-year-old kid. She's paying attention here.
My two grandsons supported me when I wore a Save America shirt and a Trump hat. 2 out of 3 of my granddaughters told me, please, Papa, take those off when you come to the school. Take your hat off. I said, okay. I do what they do.
Yes, Letitia James became deranged yesterday and started foaming at the mouth, talking about the evil orange man. Maybe she should be tested for rabies.
Rest in peace, Peanut.
Rest in peace, Peanut.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we talked about that
I
earlier.
hope someone holds the Obamas responsible for their destruction of this country for the last 4 years. Jay. Who's Jay? Do we know who Jay
Jim.
is? Jim. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they had a lot to do with it.
We don't know who Jim is, but it's,
So,
It sounds like Jim.
So I'm going to speculate on something
Go ahead.
that'll probably not happen, but
John, right? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
with this huge caravan coming towards the border, even as president-elect, if I were President Trump, I would tell the president of Mexico, if you let them get to the border and start crossing, when I become president, you're going to see more tariffs on your products than your imagination can contrive. So if he knows that the next president is going to tariff Mexico to the hilt if they let those people cross, the Mexican government will put soldiers on the border.
she was on her high horse yesterday
Yes.
on Al Jazeera News. She was on her
Al
high.
Jazeera?
Well, Al Jazeera covers a lot of stuff.
What?
The Arab news feed.
So I didn't see it on any American. Did you see it on American media?
See what?
Letitia James.
No. I'm talking about the Mexican president.
Oh, the Mexican.
No, I did not see anything on American
President
news.
of Mexico. Well, this morning I found out Cuba has no electricity.
Right.
I got that off of
Communism works great, doesn't it?
international news this
Oh,
morning.
they're stuck in the 50s.
And this Mexican
They have
president.
good cars, though.
She stepped up to the microphone yesterday on her high horse, and she's pretty confident nothing's going to happen.
Well, we'll see.
Nothing's going to happen. What?
Well, all I'm telling you, when he said promises kept,
Oh, yeah.
he meant it.
I think
Oh,
she's
yeah.
making a mistake, John. Be honest with
I
you.
agree.
If
Yeah.
you look, whether you like Trump or not, if you just go, and this is the part that astounds me, all these comments. The man had 4 years in office, and he did stuff. Now, whether you liked what he did or not is beside the point, but I think in terms of measuring whether or not he tried to follow through on his agenda, the answer is yes. I mean, Trump has a track record of quote-unquote keeping his promises,
Oh, yeah.
or at least trying to.
So
Okay?
remember when the Russians were supporting the Syrians and
Right.
gassed their own people, and President Trump told them not to do that? You know, and so Prime Minister Xi, or President Xi now, was at a luncheon in Mar-a-Lago because Trump invited him over, and they were there eating dessert. And so President Trump got a message from his people, and he had it interpreted to President Xi. He said, "Look, I told the Russians and the Syrians not to gas their own people. I've just sent 56 cruise missiles to destroy that Russian air base." And the interpreter for the Chinese president was a little bit nonplussed. He told President Xi, and Xi said, "What did he say?" And so he repeated what he said, that he just sent 56 cruise missiles in to destroy that Russian airbase. And all of a sudden, the light went on, and Xi just was he was doing this. So he...
What, were you
Message
ready?
received.
Yep.
This one, Glenn?
Evelyn, you are a rose amongst a bunch of thorns. Oh, funny.
Yeah, Thorns has an E before the N. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but there's not a bunch of us here. There's
that's
only
funny,
just two.
You know, the day I
that's
heard
cute. Thank
Hillary
you.
What
Clinton,
you meant, thank you.
I heard Hillary Clinton say Harris would win the popular vote. I came on John's show, I think it was the following day, to say, I believe Trump's going to win the popular vote.
Boy,
I still might lose because they're not done.
No. He is so far
I think
ahead.
he's got
He
enough.
ain't even close.
I
He's
hope
got
so.
enough.
When
You
Hillary-
take it to the bank.
When Hillary said that, I thought for sure that was the
No,
kiss
the
of death
the
with the Harris.
repudiation of the Democrat policies and the Harris as a candidate was unprecedented. It's a landslide. This is the true red tsunami.
There you go.
You know, he's going to win by 5 million votes in the
I hope
popular
you're
vote.
right.
Well,
John could pull it up.
well, we were having this conversation the
What
other
do you want to
day.
look at?
The popular vote.
I put that up there.
Yeah, but they're not done in California.
They don't have
And they don't have
that many
Nevada
votes.
up either.
Okay.
Yeah, but those are not all Harris votes, Bob. You have to
Yeah,
remember.
no, I know that.
Most of them are, but he will also
This
pick
is
up
all over the
votes.
place
What's
this
the
morning. This
difference?
is the popular
Yeah.
vote right here.
Yeah.
At least my take.
Oh, there you go.
As of what time, do we know?
As you said earlier this morning,
Okay.
that's right now. 68 million people voted for.
Yeah, they don't say what the
Harris.
total vote count is. That's just a
72.
percentage
If you add
difference.
them up, Glenn, it's not rocket science. You know,
Right,
rocket
but you
science-
also have other candidates. You had Jill Stein, and then there was
Oh,
somebody
Yeah, they don't
else.
get many votes.
But just
Well,
for
no,
him
but
to
they were on
win,
there.
for Trump to win the popular vote, you gotta admit it, it's beautiful.
Yep.
That's what made the whole thing.
And so when you take a look at that map, you can see where, when you hear people on any of the newscasts say that the elitists from the two coasts
That shows it.
are the ones that supported Harris. That's visual representation of the truth to the statement. And then you see why they made comments about the flyover states. And that's unfortunate, because that is the center of the country. We can use any analysis and, metaphors that we want to with regard to that. Now, John, I sent you 2 texts that
There's
were...
a 55 text, but now, which one would you like me to choose?
At least.
I want you to put up the one that is the picture of California. And California isn't even 70% in, according to this morning.
Why do they have so much difficulty counting and processing?
If they
Because
don't
there's
want
so
the
many of them.
Republicans to win, that's why.
It takes time to stuff those ballots.
So when you see, if he can get the map up, when you see this, because I was trying to find out if California had finished voting, and they haven't, and the possibility also is...
Okay, I'm going to fan through your text here.
Well, that's New York.
Which whatever you want.
Well, you can have New York. There's that one.
There you go. Right there.
That
I
one.
want this one. Okay.
Yes. So you can see California, and when you see that visual representation, it will give you an indication, as they have throughout the map, where the Republicans are versus the Democrats. And no wonder that you have people in California want to divide the state. Let's divide it so that all that blue area is a state and all the red area is a state.
And you could do it.
And you could,
There's
because
enough
that's almost a direct
The
line.
affluent people on the coast are Democrat.
Yeah. Well, also you have big
Oceanfront
cities.
property, you gotta have some money.
You also have some very large cities that are there. And we talked about the fact that many people in cities receive government assistance. And so therefore they want to continue to receive government assistance. And so therefore they're going to vote for Democrats because that's where their pocketbook is.
The other thing I want to point out is I listen to MSNBC, it's painful, and CNN, a little bit less painful, but what they were trying to make the argument about was misogyny. They didn't vote for Harris because the people were misogynistic. And then they get into this tirade about you have misogynistic blacks, you have misogynistic Latinos, you have misogynistic Asians.
Misogynistic
wait a minute.
hate woman.
Wait a minute, we're making progress. Because a year ago, only
just
misogynists were
Well,
white
white
people.
men.
Right, so I guess we made some progress,
It's catching
right?
on.
Yeah.
They're reaching for straws because
Exactly.
they still don't understand what happened.
Hey,
No, they
tomorrow's
don't.
Lowell's,
they're
tomorrow's
not going
City
to.
Life, we're going to have Cliff Krieger's radio host, Eileen Del Rossi will be here, Lowell's sons, Melanie Gilbert will be here, and Greater Lowell Regional School Committee and Ralph Hogan, they're all coming tomorrow, thanks.
And it's Bud Caulfield's wedding anniversary.
And it's Bud's wedding anniversary.
Congratulations, Bud.
Wedding anniversary.
Yeah, they're nice people.
And the big losers in this election are the media.
Oh,
because the media, and they're crying and screaming and lying and distorting of the facts, people actually saw through that and said, no, I know what I feel, I know what I see, and I'm going to vote for President Trump because that's going to make a difference. If I vote for Kamala Harris, I'm going to get more of the same, which is a destruction of the country and 20 million more illegal immigrants coming in over the next 4 years.
And the erosion of your freedom.
Right.
That's really what it boils down
I
to.
think the biggest loser were the Democrats. I think they have a lot of work to do to even try to come back.
Well, they bought into the nonsense.
And the Republicans, all they have to do is fix the problems.
The Republicans are now the party of the people, the party of the working people.
It's flipped.
I still haven't heard,
amazing.
kids, I still haven't heard, how are we going to unify these two polarities?
Well, because people, once they see that their taxes are going down, that their wages are going up, that crime is being decreased.
And they'll
in
say
the street-
Biden did that.
What?
Oh, they're going to say anything that they want in order to support another position.
Can any of you folks think of a way we can get unification to the 68 million people who voted for Kamala Harris?
When
and
people's
72
lives,
million people who voted for Donald
when
Trump?
people's lives become more productive, safer, richer, the
Better.
United States becomes more powerful, people will say, yeah, this is better. You know, and the question that Trump asked, correctly so, like President Reagan, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And the answer was a resounding, you can see it, a resounding no, we're not. And this has to stop, and it was stopped.
Well, this has been going on since President Biden won office. Half the country don't like him.
Well, it's really since...
There was no efforts made to unify the United States.
Well, when you pour illegal immigrants into New York City, into your states and towns, and they suck up all your tax money because you have to house them, feed them, and educate them, you know, guess what? That doesn't work.
It really, John, in my opinion, not to contradict you, but in my opinion, it started under President Obama, because you remember when he first ran in 2008, he said, we are going to fundamentally transform America. Okay? And that's what they carried through. They followed through on that.
And how do you do that? You bring in 20 million people that are so dependent on government, they will, and you make them citizens, it guarantees their vote forever.
We're going to fundamentally transform America. And,
Well,
and that's been going on since 2008, really.
We can continue this another week, and as we usually will do. We're coming up to the end of the program. Thank you very much, Glenn, for getting up extra special early this morning, and Sam and Bob. And we'll see you next week. I think John Moses is on next week. We'd certainly check the calendar. We hope everybody stays safe and enjoy the weather, that beautiful weather that we have.
It's going to change tomorrow.
Just wait a minute. Blink an eye.
We're in New England.
Thanks.
You know,